Welcome back to Everyday Hockey, presented by DraftKings, the leader in daily fantasy sports. Don't forget to use promo code THPN upon sign up for a bonus. And if you're a regular user, plug that promo code in for a weekly deal. Today, we talk about the Chicago Blackhawks potentially moving Duncan Keith to the Edmonton Oilers. Let's get to the nitty-gritty. Rumors coming out of the Edmonton Journal and other media outlets, Dylan, that Duncan Keith could be on the move to the Edmonton Oilers.
On the move to the promised land. Duncan Keith. It looks like Kenny Holland's pretty interested in him. I mean, it's pretty typical of Kenny Holland going after guys like this.
BC boys, British Columbia guys.
Well, good BC boys, I guess, yeah. But also shoring up his defense before heading into next season. I still consider Duncan Keith a top 4 defenseman. Is he a top pairing guy? No, but I think he's a decent second pairing guy, and that's exactly what the Edmonton Oilers need.
Well, the Edmonton Oilers need like any defense they can get right now, which, you know, with the news that Tyson Barrie could be testing out free agency, Klefbom, his health is still in question for the next season, and maybe even his future as a professional hockey player in general.
And I think that's why these rumors are swirling around, because of Klefbom being out. If Klefbom was healthy, they would not be interested in Duncan Keith right now.
Yeah, and as a result of, having to not really pay anybody on the back end because it's pretty thin there anyways, they can at least take on that contract for the next 2 years. Now, the Chicago Blackhawks, and you just told me this, Dylan, they're not interested in retaining any salary. So what do you think this potential deal could look like?
There could be a lot of moving parts in this trade, but, I'm going to throw one out there. It could be something as simple as Duncan Keith and, let's say, a second-round pick going to the Edmonton Oilers in exchange for, let's say, a third or a fourth-round pick. What do you think about that?
I think that's fair value. And I don't think that that's anything too complicated. It's kind of textbook Kenny Holland right there.
Because here's the thing. Duncan Keith, yes, he's expensive, $5.5 million, only 2 years left. So you can stomach that contract for 2 more years.
Because he fills a spot, he can still play. Now, he is a fraction of what he was in his prime, of course, as he's getting up there in age. But the thing is, no one who has to take on his contract is going to be doing it for long term, and he fills a void with the Edmonton Oilers right now. Originally, there were rumors coming out that he was going to be moved or would be interested in moving to the Pacific Northwest. Now, for those who are watching who are down south and in Eastern Canada, I don't know what you think the Pacific Northwest is, but for us up here, it's either Oregon, Washington, or British Columbia. Now, only 2 out of those 3 have NHL teams, Seattle and Vancouver. Seattle, I just thought, I just don't see that happening. Seattle is probably going to target better top 4 or just filler defensemen going into next season and post-expansion draft. Vancouver, the only scenario I could see would be if Vancouver traded Loui Eriksson in the deal. He only has 1 more year left on his contract, and whether he plays or not with the Chicago Blackhawks, Duncan Keith just fills a void for the Vancouver Canucks, who don't have a ton of defensemen in their own right. But what we've been hearing about Edmonton just makes sense all around.
And I'm just going to throw this out here. Duncan Keith did change his agent this offseason to Edmonton-based Jerry, or is it Gary? Jerry or Gary Johansson?
Gary Johansson.
There you go. Edmonton-based, though.
Ties to
Edmonton.
Edmonton.
Ties to Edmonton. Just going to throw it out there.
Yeah, well, and Kenny Holland continues to put his stamp on this team since taking over. And if you look at how well they played last year, be it was the North Division, it was the COVID season, I'd say the Edmonton Oilers did take a step forward. They locked up Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, and they're going to have to continue to fill that back end and bottom 6 players, and good bottom 6 players. We're not talking players who will score 30 goals here, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking players who can grind it out. The Patrick Maroons, though probably hopefully 28, 30 versus where he's pushing right now, but you know what I mean. Players who can really grind it out, help a little bit in scoring, and just who do things right and buy into a system. Not just a carousel of players every year, new faces like we've seen with the Edmonton Oilers this entire decade, I would argue.
No, they need to do more. I mean, we see it every year in the playoffs. I mean, the depth comes into question every single year, and for a good reason. They don't have the depth, both on the back end and on the front end. I mean, yeah, you got McDavid, you got Draisaitl, but there's not much else. So I agree. They have to fill in the cabinets here. They have to be active in free agency. They have to be active when making trades as well.
And in regards to the defense, best case scenario, they can lock up Barrie to a pretty good deal. Maybe he doesn't take a super big discount, but maybe he wants to continue to win with this team, and they bring in Duncan Keith and can keep it all under the cap. And Maybe in the Keith deal, they get a little bit of, a sweetener from the Chicago Blackhawks as well, and makes it worth taking it on for 2 years. So that's best case scenario. Excited to see how this plays out, man.
And, looking at young players too, Philip Broberg, it gives him an opportunity to play in the AHL for a full season. There was a chance that maybe he would come up and play for the Oilers this year, which I don't think is the best scenario for him. So if Duncan Keith did come in, full year in the AHL for Philip Broberg.
Let him marinate. All right, that's it for today. Tell us what night it is in Canada in the comments below. Subscribe, smash that like button, and we'll see you in the next video.